The silence in this room is the loudest thing I've ever heard. It's a thick, heavy blanket of quiet, punctuated only by the rhythmic, gentle beep of a machine next to me. The air smells clean, antiseptic, but underneath it, there's the scent of new life. It's a smell I've only ever dreamed of, a mix of powder and warmth and something uniquely, indescribably hers. Her tiny hand, so impossibly small, is wrapped around my index finger. Her knuckles are like tiny, perfect pearls. Her grip is surprisingly strong, a fierce, anchoring weight in the center of my universe, which has just been ripped apart and rebuilt into something new, something I don't recognize yet. A tear I didn't know was coming slips from the corner of my eye and traces a cold path down my temple. It's not a tear of sadness. It's not even a tear of joy. It's something else, something forged in the fire of the last 9 months. It's a tear of survival, of vindication. My phone, lying face down on the bedside table, buzzes. A single, insistent vibration that cuts through the sacred quiet. I don't need to look. I know who it is. I can feel the frantic, desperate energy radiating through the screen. He's screaming into a void, and the sound of his silence is the sweetest lullaby I've ever known. If you've ever had a moment where the world went quiet and all you could hear was your own strength, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me share these stories, and that means more than you know. Our dream was built on a foundation of spreadsheets and sacrifice. For 5 years, every spare dollar, every skipped vacation, every passed-up dinner out went into an account we nicknamed The Future. It had a picture of a smiling, chubby-cheeked baby as its icon in our banking app. It was our holy grail, the culmination of 1,000 small no's to ourselves so we could finally get the one big yes we craved more than anything. Mark was the architect of that dream, or so I thought. He was the one who created the spreadsheet, with its color-coded columns and projected savings goals. He was the one who would kiss my forehead after another negative pregnancy test and whisper, "It's okay, baby. We're a team. We'll get there. The future is waiting for us." He made the dream feel tangible, inevitable. He'd trace the line of my jaw and talk about the nursery, how he wanted to paint it a soft, pale yellow, the color of morning sunlight. He talked about teaching our son or daughter how to play catch in the backyard, about the tire swing he was going to hang from the big oak tree. He sold me a life I wanted so badly, I could taste it. The love I had for him was woven into the very fabric of that dream. It was impossible to separate the two. I loved him for the way he'd rub my feet after a long day, for the silly notes he'd leave in my lunch, for the fierce, protective way he talked about our future child. He was my partner, my rock, my everything. The IVF journey was our final frontier, the last, most expensive battle in a long and grueling war against my own body. The doctors were optimistic. They used words like excellent candidate and high probability of success. Each word was a spark of hope that we carefully collected and stored in our hearts. The cost was astronomical, a figure so large it felt like Monopoly money. But we had the future account. We had our dream, saved up in dollars and cents. We were ready. We paid the initial deposits, went through the endless rounds of tests, the hormone injections that made me feel like a stranger in my own skin, bloated and bruised and emotionally raw. Mark was perfect through it all. He learned how to administer the shots, his touch gentle and sure. He held me when I cried for no reason, when the hormones sent me spiraling. "It's for the baby," he'd murmur, his voice a soothing balm. "It's all for the baby," and I'd nod, wiping my tears, believing him, believing in us. The clinic called on a Tuesday, a crisp, sunny autumn day. I was at my desk, staring at a spreadsheet of my own, one for work that felt meaningless and gray compared to the vibrant colors of our future. "Mrs. Evans," the voice on the phone was cheerful, professional. "Just a friendly reminder that your final payment for the transfer procedure is due by Friday. We're all so excited for you here." A thrill went through me, a jolt of pure, unadulterated joy. This was it, the final step. I could already picture it, the tiny embryo, our little spark of hope, finally coming home. "Thank you so much," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I'll take care of it right now." I hung up the phone, my heart pounding a triumphant rhythm against my ribs. I logged into our joint banking app, my fingers flying across the screen. I navigated to the transfer page, my eyes already on the future account. And then I froze. The balance was $1,732. $17.32. I blinked, convinced my eyes were playing tricks on me. I refreshed the page. The number remained, stark and mocking. $1,732. The future was gone. A wave of nausea, cold and sharp, washed over me.
This had to be a mistake.
A bank error. A glitch in the system. I clicked on the transaction history, my hand shaking so violently I could barely control the mouse. And there it was. A series of withdrawals. Large ones. 5,000 here. 10,000 there. Another 10. The dates stretched back 2 months. The last one was 3 days ago. The recipient for each transfer was a name I didn't recognize. Vantage Investments. My blood ran cold. An investment? Mark hadn't said anything about an investment. Especially not with this money. This money was sacrosanct. It was untouchable. We had a rule, a promise made over a shared bottle of cheap wine years ago. This money was for the baby, and for the baby only.
I called his phone.
It went straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's Mark. Leave a message." His cheerful, recorded voice was a slap in the face. I tried again. Voicemail. My panic began to curdle into a dark, terrifying dread. I left my office in a daze, mumbling something about a family emergency to my bewildered boss. The drive home was a blur. I don't remember the traffic, the turns, the red lights. All I could see was that number. $1,732. When I walked through the door, he was on the couch, watching TV, a beer in his hand. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey, you're home early." The normalcy of it was grotesque. It felt like a scene from a different life, a life that had ended the moment I saw that bank balance. I stood in the doorway, my purse slipping from my shoulder and hitting the floor with a dull thud. I couldn't speak. The words were trapped in my throat, choked by a knot of disbelief and fear. He must have seen the look on my face. His smile faltered. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I finally found my voice, but it came out as a broken whisper. "The money, Mark. It's gone." He frowned, a perfect mask of confusion. "What money?" "The future," I croaked, the name tasting like ash in my mouth. "The baby money. It's all gone." For a split second, a flicker of something unreadable crossed his face. It wasn't confusion. It was something else.
Fear? Guilt?
It was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by a look of dawning horror that was just a little too theatrical. He jumped up from the couch.
"What? No.
That can't be right." He pulled out his phone, his thumbs swiping frantically. I watched him, a cold detachment settling over me. I was an audience member watching a performance, and the lead actor was my husband. He stared at his phone, his face pale. He sank back onto the couch, his head in his hands. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Oh my God, Chloe.
I'm so sorry."
The story came tumbling out, a well-rehearsed cascade of excuses and self-flagellation. It was a sure thing, a crypto investment his buddy from college, Kevin, had recommended. It was supposed to double, maybe even triple, our money in a few months. He was going to surprise me. He imagined my face when he told me we had enough for the IVF, for the best private hospital, for a college fund. All of it. He just wanted to give us more. To give me more. But the market crashed. It was all gone. Every last cent. He was a fool. An idiot. He had ruined everything.
He cried.
Actual tears rolled down his cheeks as he told me how he had betrayed my trust, how he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me. He wrapped his arms around me, burying his face in my hair. "We'll fix this," he sobbed. "I'll sell the car. I'll get a second job. I'll do whatever it takes. Please, please don't hate me." And I, drowning in the wreckage of our shared dream, clung to him. I let him hold me. because hating him felt like hating myself, like hating the dream we had built together. And I wasn't ready to do that. I wanted to believe the lie. I needed to believe it.
So I did.
The weeks that followed were a special kind of hell. We were living in the shadow of a ghost, the ghost of the child we could no longer afford. The nursery door remained closed. The pale yellow paint samples sat on the kitchen counter, a daily reminder of our failure. Mark threw himself into making it right. He worked late every night, coming home exhausted, smelling of stale coffee and regret. He sold his precious sports car, the one he polished every Sunday. He picked up weekend shifts bartending at a dive bar across town. On the surface, he was the image of a penitent man, desperate to atone for his mistake. He was tender and attentive, constantly asking if I was okay, telling me he loved me more than anything. But something was wrong. There was a subtle disconnect, a hollowness to his words. It was like he was playing the part of a devoted husband, but he had forgotten his lines. The grief I felt was a physical thing, a constant weight in my chest. Some days, it was all I could do to get out of bed. The world had lost its color. It was all shades of gray. I called the clinic and told them we had to postpone. The word postpone felt like a lie. It was a cancellation. An ending. The cheerful nurse's voice turned sympathetic. I understand, she said softly. We'll be here when you're ready, but I knew we would never be ready. A mountain of debt had replaced our mountain of hope. I tried to help. I started selling my things. Jewelry my grandmother had left me, designer bags I'd saved for months to buy, furniture we didn't strictly need. Each item sold felt like selling a piece of myself, a piece of the life we were supposed to have. One evening, I was listing a pair of earrings online, taking photos against a white background to make them look appealing. I needed to find the original receipt to prove their authenticity. I went to the small wooden box where we kept all our important documents and receipts. I rummaged through the files, my fingers brushing against car titles, warranties, and old tax returns. And then I saw it. A receipt I didn't recognize, tucked into the back of the file for household expenses. It was from a restaurant. A very expensive, very romantic restaurant downtown called Aria. The date was from 6 weeks ago, a Tuesday. I remembered that Tuesday. Mark had called to say he was stuck at work, a last-minute deadline. He'd told me not to wait up. He'd sounded so tired, so stressed. But this receipt was time-stamped at 9:47 p.m. The total was over $400. Dinner for two. Champagne. Oysters. Dessert. My heart started a slow, heavy drumbeat against my ribs. It was probably a business dinner. He was trying to land a new client, trying to make more money, to pay back what he'd lost. That had to be it. I tried to push the thought away, but it was a splinter, lodged deep under my skin. I couldn't leave it alone. I looked at the credit card number on the receipt. It was a card I didn't recognize. Not our joint account, not his personal debit card. A new one. Driven by a cold, sick curiosity I couldn't explain, I did something I had never done in our 10 years together. I went to his laptop, which he'd left open on the kitchen table. I opened the browser. His email was already logged in. I typed credit card into the search bar. An email from Capital One popped up. Your new card has been activated. It was opened 3 months ago. I clicked on the link to view the statements. My hands were trembling. I had to steady my right hand with my left to click the mouse. The statement loaded, a pristine PDF document detailing a life I knew nothing about. There was the charge for Aria. But there were others. So many others. A weekend at a boutique hotel in the wine country. A charge from a lingerie store, Victoria's Secret. A $5,000 charge from a Chanel boutique on Rodeo Drive. The date of the Chanel purchase was the same day that $10,000 had been transferred from our future account to Vantage Investments. My breath hitched in my throat. Vantage Investments. It wasn't a crypto firm. It was a shell corporation. A ghost. A name on a screen designed to look legitimate. He hadn't invested the money. He had funneled it. He had stolen it. He had stolen our future and used it to buy lingerie and designer handbags. I felt a strange sense of calm descend over me, the kind of stillness that comes at the center of a hurricane. The grief, the sadness, the desperate hope that I had been clinging to for weeks, it all evaporated, replaced by something cold and hard and sharp. It was rage. A pure, clean rage that burned away all the confusion and left only a terrible, stark clarity. I kept digging. I went back to the statement, searching for a name, a clue, anything. I found a charge for flower delivery. I Googled a florist and called them, my voice smooth and even. I pretended to be a personal assistant, confirming a delivery for my boss, Mark Evans. "Oh yes," the woman said. "The beautiful arrangement of white lilies for Tiffany." Such a lovely choice, Tiffany. The name meant nothing to me, but it was a start. A quick search of Mark's social media followers yielded nothing.
He was too smart for that.
But his friends weren't. I went to his best friend Kevin's page. The same Kevin he had blamed for the bad investment tip. I scrolled through Kevin's photos, my eyes scanning for a face I didn't know. And then I saw her. She was in a group photo from a recent party. She was stunning, in that effortless, sun-kissed California way. Long blonde hair, a perfect smile, a body that looked like it had been sculpted by a personal trainer. She was tagged Tiffany Dubois. I clicked on her profile.
It was public.
And it was a shrine to the money Mark had stolen from us. There she was, posing in front of a new, gleaming white convertible. The caption read, "Best boyfriend ever."
Surprise.
The photo was dated the day after a huge withdrawal from our account. There she was, sipping champagne at the boutique hotel in wine country, wearing a silk robe. "Living the dream," she wrote. And there, in a photo posted just last week, she was smiling, holding up a black Chanel handbag. The same bag from the credit card statement. The caption was a single diamond ring emoji. My eyes scanned the comments. "OMG, is that what I think it is?" One friend wrote. Tiffany had replied with a series of winking emojis. It was all there. A complete, detailed, time-stamped record of his betrayal. He hadn't just cheated on me. He hadn't just stolen our money. He had taken our dream, the most precious, fragile thing we had, and he had handed it to someone else. He had let her live the life that was supposed to be ours. I closed the laptop. The silence in the house was absolute. I stood up and walked to the nursery. I opened the door. The room was empty, save for a few boxes and the pale yellow paint samples on the floor. I picked one up, the color of morning sunlight. I thought of the child I had mourned, the ghost that haunted the hallways of our home. And in that moment, the ghost took shape. It became a purpose. He thought he had destroyed our future. He thought he had taken everything. But he was wrong. He had taken the money.
He had not taken me.
My grief was gone, burned away by the cold fire of my rage. And what was left was a woman he had never met. A woman who would not break. A woman who would not mourn. A woman who would get her future back, with or without him. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Mark. "Working late again, baby. Don't wait up. Love you." I looked at the message at the lie sitting there in plain text. I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel anything at all. I simply typed back, "Okay.
Be safe.
Love you too." The lie came easily. It was armor. And I was just beginning to suit up for the war that was to come. My first move was to find out if there was anything left to salvage. Not of my marriage. That was a corpse, and I had no intention of trying to revive it, but of the dream. I called the fertility clinic, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside me. I spoke to the financial coordinator, a kind woman named Brenda. I explained that my husband had made a disastrous investment and that our funds were gone. I asked hypothetically what my options were. Were there payment plans? Loans? Grants for couples in our situation? She was sympathetic but firm. The procedures were expensive, and they required payment in full, upfront. My heart sank, but I thanked her and hung up. The familiar despair started to creep back in, a cold fog at the edges of my newfound resolve. But then I remembered something. Something I hadn't thought about in years. My grandmother, Nana Rose. Before she passed away, she had pulled me aside. She'd pressed a small, ornate key into my hand. "This is for a safety deposit box," she had whispered, her voice thin and papery. "There's not much in there, just a little something I saved for you. Don't tell a soul, not even that handsome husband of yours. This is for a real emergency. For a day when you need to save yourself." I had forgotten all about it. In the happiness of my early marriage, the idea of needing to save myself from Mark seemed absurd. I had tucked the key away in my jewelry box and never gave it a second thought. Now, her words echoed in my mind. A real emergency. This was it. The next morning, I told Mark I was going to visit my sister for the day, that I needed some space to process everything. He was a picture of understanding. "Of course, baby. Take all the time you need." I'm just so sorry. His performance was flawless, but I could see the cracks in it now. I saw the relief in his eyes. My grief was convenient for him. It gave him space to live his other life. I drove to the old downtown bank, the one with the marble columns and the high, vaulted ceilings. My hand trembled as I handed the key and my ID to the clerk. He led me into the vault, a cold, silent room that smelled of old paper and steel. He slid the long, thin box out of the wall and placed it on a table in a private viewing room, then left, closing the heavy door behind him. I lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, were several stacks of bonds, tied with faded silk ribbons and a simple, handwritten letter. My hands shook as I opened it. "My dearest Chloe," it began. "If you are reading this, it means the world has thrown you a challenge you feel you cannot face alone. I want you to know that you are stronger than you think. You have my blood in your veins, and we are a line of women who bend, but we do not break. This is your fresh start, your escape hatch, your secret weapon. Use it to build a life that makes you happy, on your own terms. All my love." Nana rose, tears streamed down my face as I read her words. It was as if she had reached through time to hold my hand. I counted the bonds. It was more than I could have imagined. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was enough to pay for the IVF, to pay for the best doctors, to pay for everything. It was enough to give my baby the future Mark had stolen. A wave of profound, bone-deep gratitude washed over me.
Thank you, Nana.
In that cold, silent vault, I made a new plan. A plan that did not include my husband. I would go forward with the IVF. Alone. I would have my baby. And Mark would never, ever know.
He didn't deserve to.
He had forfeited that right when he bought another woman a Chanel bag with the money meant for his child. The first step was creating a believable narrative for my absence. I went home and told Mark that I couldn't heal in the house where our dream had died. I told him I needed to move in with my sister, Sarah, for a while. To get some distance. To figure out if I could ever forgive him. He protested, of course. He begged me to stay. He swore he would make everything right. But his protests were weak, his pleas laced with that same hollow theatricality.
Deep down, he was relieved.
He probably imagined I would spend a few months crying on my sister's couch, and then, weakened and lonely, I would come back to him, grateful for whatever scraps of a life he was willing to offer. He helped me pack my bags, his face a mask of sorrow. "I'll call you every day," he promised, kissing my forehead. "I love you so much. I love you too." I lied, the words feeling like stones in my mouth. My sister Sarah was the only person I told the truth to. I sat her down in her cozy living room and laid out the whole sordid story. The empty account, the lies, the credit card statements, Tiffany. When I finished, her face was a thundercloud of fury. "I will end him," she said, her voice a low growl. "Just say the word, Chloe, and I will burn his entire world to the ground." I shook my head.
No.
A loud, messy fire is what he expects. I want a slow, quiet freeze. I want him to wake up one day and realize he's been left out in the cold, and he won't even know how it happened. Then I told her about Nana Rose's money and my plan to have the baby in secret. She looked at me, her eyes wide. "Can you do that? Hide a whole pregnancy?" "I have to," I said, my voice filled with a conviction that surprised even me. "He will not be this child's father. He is just a sperm donor who paid for the privilege with stolen money, Sarah nodded, a slow, grim smile spreading across her face. Okay, she said. Let's do this. Operation Trojan Horse Baby is a go. The next few months were a masterclass in deception. I went to the clinic and paid for the procedure in full, using a new bank account I had opened in my name only. I explained that my husband and I were separated, but that we were still proceeding with the transfer using our previously frozen embryos. They didn't bat an eye. It was just another box to tick on a form. The transfer was successful. 2 weeks later, the doctor called me with the news. I was pregnant. I was sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot when I got the call. Congratulations, Chloe, he said. You're pregnant. I closed my eyes, a single, perfect tear of joy tracing a path through the dust on my dashboard. It worked. Despite everything, it worked. My baby, my little spark of hope, was real. I was going to be a mother. Hiding the pregnancy was the hardest thing I've ever done. The first trimester was a blur of morning sickness and exhaustion. I told Mark I had a lingering stomach flu. He was concerned, sending me texts with sad face emojis and offers to bring me soup, which he knew I would refuse. I lived in baggy sweaters and leggings. I mastered the art of holding a purse or a grocery bag in front of my stomach. I became a hermit, avoiding friends and family, using my devastating separation as the perfect excuse. I'm just not ready to see anyone, I'd say, my voice trembling with fake emotion. It's all still too raw. They'd murmur their sympathies, telling me to take all the time I needed. Mark and I spoke on the phone every few days. Our conversations were a bizarre performance. He'd tell me about his long hours at his second job, how tired he was, how much he missed me. He painted a picture of a man suffering, a man paying his penance. I knew he was spending most of his nights with Tiffany. I could hear her laughing in the background sometimes, a high, tinkling sound that made my blood run cold. I'd play my part, the heartbroken wife. I'd cry a little, tell him I was still so hurt that I didn't know if our marriage could be saved. Each lie was a brick in the wall I was building around myself and my child. The doctor's appointments were clandestine operations. I'd drive to a clinic in a neighboring town where no one knew me. I paid in cash. Seeing my baby on the ultrasound for the first time was a moment of pure, unadulterated magic. A tiny, flickering heartbeat on a black and white screen. A miracle. My miracle. I was so overwhelmed with love that it felt like my chest would burst. This tiny person, this innocent life, was the reason for all of it. They were my future. The only future that mattered. As my belly grew, so did the logistical challenges. Sarah was my co-conspirator, my accomplice. She'd buy maternity clothes for me, smuggling them into her house like contraband. She came with me to every appointment, holding my hand, her presence a silent, steady source of strength. She was the only one who knew my secret, and the weight of it bonded us in a way I had never thought possible. One evening, I was scrolling through social media, a mindless habit I had developed to pass the long, lonely evenings. And then I saw it. A post from Tiffany Dubois. It was a professional photo. Her and Mark, standing on a beach at sunset. He was on one knee, holding a small black box. Her hand was over her mouth in feigned surprise. She was wearing a massive diamond ring. The caption was breathless and filled with hashtags. Hashtag I said yes, hashtag engaged, hashtag future Mrs. Evans, hashtag soulmate, hashtag luckiest girl in the world. My world tilted. Future Mrs. Evans. He was replacing me. He was erasing me. He was taking my name, my life, my future, and giving it all to her. The air left my lungs in a rush. I felt the baby kick, a sharp, insistent jab against my ribs, as if they could feel my distress. I placed a hand on my belly, my breath coming in ragged gasps. For a moment, the old pain, the grief, the sense of betrayal, came roaring back. But then I looked at the picture again. I saw the smug smile on her face, the triumphant gleam in his eyes. And the rage returned, cold and clarifying. This wasn't a setback. It was a gift. It was the final piece of permission I needed. Any lingering shred of sentimentality I might have had for the man I once loved turned to dust. He had made his choice. Now I would make mine. I took a screenshot of the engagement photo. I saved it to a folder on my phone labeled evidence, then I began to methodically untangle my life from his. I contacted a lawyer, a shark my sister had recommended. I explained the situation, leaving out the part about the pregnancy for now. I wanted to understand the financial and legal landscape. Financial abuse is a serious matter, she told me, her voice sharp and professional. Keep records of everything. Every statement, every text, every social media post. We will build a case. I spent the next few months preparing for my new life. A life as a single mother. I found a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood 2 towns over. I furnished it piece by piece, creating a soft, peaceful sanctuary for me and my baby. I bought a crib, a changing table, a rocking chair. Each purchase was an act of defiance, a declaration of independence. I was building a future of my own, one that he had no part in. My due date approached. I was a strange mix of terrified and exhilarated. I was about to bring a child into the world completely on my own. Mark's calls became less frequent. He was busy planning a wedding, building a new life on the ashes of ours. He'd send perfunctory texts. "Hope you're doing okay." I'd reply with a simple, "I'm hanging in there." The distance between us was a vast, silent ocean. He thought I was adrift, lost at sea. He had no idea I was on the shore of a new continent, about to build a new world. The day I went into labor, it was raining. A soft, steady drizzle that washed the world clean. Sarah drove me to the hospital. I was registered under my maiden name. My married name, the name Tiffany was so desperate to have, no longer existed for me. The labor was long and hard. A grueling, primal battle. But through the pain, I felt a strange sense of power. I was doing this. My body, the body I had once thought was broken, was performing a miracle. Sarah was by my side the whole time, a fierce and loyal guardian. She held my hand, she fed me ice chips, she whispered encouragement in my ear. She was the only partner I needed. After 18 hours, my daughter was born. She came into the world with a loud, healthy cry, her tiny face red and crumpled. They laid her on my chest, and the world fell away. All the pain, all the anger, all the betrayal of the past year, it all vanished. All that was left was this tiny, warm, perfect being. Her name was Rose, after the woman who had saved us both. I held her, my heart overflowing with a love so fierce it was almost painful. We did it, little one. We made it. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, my daughter nestled in the crook of my arm. My phone, which Sarah had plugged in for me, lit up with a notification. It was from Instagram. It was a post from Mark. It was a wedding photo. Him and Tiffany, kissing under a floral archway. He was in a crisp tuxedo, she in a cloud of white lace. They looked ecstatic. The caption read, "The first day of my forever." Mr. and Mrs. Evans, the timing was so cruel, so perfect, it was almost poetic. He was starting his forever on the very day my real forever began. A day he would never even know existed. I looked from the glossy, staged perfection of his photo to the real, messy, beautiful reality of my daughter sleeping on my chest. There was no comparison. I had won.
He just didn't know it yet.
With a steady hand, I opened my own Instagram. I took a photo, not of my face or the sterile hospital room, just a close-up of Rose's tiny, perfect hand wrapped tightly around my index finger. The caption was simple. "Welcome to the world, my little miracle." "It's always been just the two of us," I posted it. Then, I went to Mark's contact in my phone. I blocked his number. I blocked him on every social media platform. I blocked Kevin. I blocked Tiffany. I erected a digital wall, swift and silent and absolute. Then I turned my phone off, closed my eyes, and for the first time in a very long time, I slept a deep, dreamless, and peaceful sleep. The fallout was, I imagined, spectacular. I didn't see it firsthand, of course. I was in my peaceful postpartum bubble, learning the rhythms of my new daughter. My world shrunk to the size of her tiny body. But Sarah, my loyal field marshal, gave me updates. It started as a ripple of confusion. Friends and family, the few who followed us both, saw my post, then his. The congratulations on his wedding post were suddenly peppered with questions. A baby? Wow, you guys have been busy. Congrats. Wait, I'm confused. Whose baby? Did you and Chloe have a surrogate? The timeline didn't make sense. A wedding to a new woman and a newborn baby with his estranged wife, all on the same day? The gossip must have spread like wildfire. Mark, I can only assume, was basking in the glow of his new marriage, probably on his honeymoon, when his phone started blowing up. He must have seen my post. He must have stared at that tiny hand, the world tilting beneath his feet. The child he thought he had erased, the future he thought he had successfully stolen and discarded, was real. His first reaction was probably disbelief. Then rage. The frantic calls began. Dozens of them, all going straight to the digital void, where my number used to be. Then the texts. Then the voicemails left on my sister's phone, each one more unhinged than the last. Sarah played them for me a few days later, when I was home from the hospital, settled in my new apartment with Rose. We listened to them like a true crime podcast, a bowl of popcorn between us. The first one was confused. Chloe? What is this? What baby?
Call me.
This isn't funny. The next was angry. What the hell did you do? You had a baby without telling me? Is it even mine? You have to call me right now. The last one was pure, screaming desperation. Chloe, I'm going to the hospital. You can't do this. You can't just have my baby and hide her from me. I'm her father. I have rights. He showed up at the hospital, of course. But there was no Chloe Evans registered there. He showed up at my old house, the one he was now sharing with his new bride. Empty. He showed up at Sarah's house, demanding to see me. My sister, all 5'3" of her, met him at the door. She doesn't want to see you, Mark, she said, her voice dangerously calm. You need to leave. That's my child, he screamed, his face red and blotchy. I have a right to see my daughter. You gave up your rights when you spent her future on a convertible and a Chanel bag, Sarah replied, and then she closed the door in his face. The official-looking letter arrived a week later. It was from his lawyer. It demanded a paternity test and threatened to sue for full custody, citing my instability and deceitful behavior. I almost laughed. I handed the letter to my own lawyer, the shark. He's predictable, she said with a thin smile. And stupid. Let him demand the test. It will be his undoing. We met in a sterile conference room a month later for a court-ordered mediation. It was the first time I had seen him in person in almost a year. He looked diminished. The confident, charming man I had married was gone. In his place was a man with tired eyes and a hunted expression. His new wife, Tiffany, was with him, clinging to his arm. She looked like a doll, perfectly made up, but her eyes were hard and cold. She glared at me as if I was the one who had wronged her. I sat there, calm and composed, my lawyer next to me. Mark started, his voice thick with a self-pity that was nauseating. He talked about his love for me, the one terrible mistake he had made, his desperation to be a father to his daughter. He painted me as a vengeful, unstable woman who had cruelly robbed him of the birth of his child. When he was finished, my lawyer simply opened her briefcase. She laid everything out on the polished table. The bank statements from our future account, with the dates of withdrawal highlighted. The corresponding credit card statements showing the purchases for Tiffany. The printouts of her social media posts, flaunting her gifts. The screenshot of their engagement announcement. She had even subpoenaed the records from Vantage Investments, revealing it to be a shell corporation linked to Mark's own personal accounts. It was a perfect, irrefutable timeline of deceit and financial fraud. Mr. Evans, my lawyer said, her voice like ice. You didn't make a mistake. You orchestrated a deliberate, calculated theft. You stole funds designated for creating a child and spent them on your mistress. You didn't just abandon your wife emotionally, you abandoned her financially at her most vulnerable moment. You didn't lose the chance to be a father. You sold it. For $5,000 to Chanel. Mark stared at the paperwork, his face ashen. Tiffany looked like she was going to be sick. The room was silent. As for paternity, my lawyer continued, my client is not contesting it. She is, in fact, insisting on it. Because once you are legally established as Rose's father, we will be suing you for full reimbursement of the stolen IVF funds, retroactive child support from the date of conception, and ongoing child support calculated at the highest possible rate based on your income. We will also be petitioning for sole legal and physical custody, given your documented history of financial abuse, moral turpitude, and extreme duplicity, which clearly demonstrates you are not a fit parent. He looked at me then, his eyes pleading. The mask of the angry, wronged father fell away, and all that was left was a pathetic, terrified little man. He had walked in here expecting to scream and bully his way into my life. He thought he could claim my daughter as his prize, another accessory for his perfect new life. He never imagined that the gun he had pointed at me was loaded, and that I would be the one to turn it around and point it right back at him. He never saw that the trap he had set for me would be the one to snap shut on him. He had screamed when he found out I had given birth, but he was utterly silent when he realized he was going to have to pay for it for the rest of his life. The judge, a stern-looking woman who did not seem impressed by Mark or his tearful new wife, granted everything we asked for. The paternity test came back a 999% match, and with it came the court order. Sole custody for me. Supervised visitation for him, 2 hours every other Saturday, at my discretion. And the financial judgment. He was ordered to repay every single cent he had stolen with interest. His wages were garnished for child support. The convertible was sold. Tiffany's Chanel bag probably went with it. Their new life, their forever, began with a mountain of debt owed directly to me and the child he had tried to discard. The irony was exquisite. The money he had used to buy his new life was now the anchor that was sinking it.
It's been a year now.
Rose just celebrated her first birthday. We had a small party in the backyard of our little apartment. Sarah was there, my parents were there, a few close friends who had rallied around me. We ate cake and watched Rose crawl through the grass, her face alight with a joy so pure it makes my heart ache. My life is small and quiet, but it's mine. It's built on a foundation of truth and resilience, not lies and spreadsheets. Mark sees Rose, as ordered by the court. He shows up every other Saturday, his eyes hollow, his shoulders slumped. He plays with her stiffly, awkwardly, like he's holding a stranger's baby. Tiffany never comes with him anymore. I hear from mutual acquaintances that their marriage is strained, that the money problems are a constant source of friction. He looks at me sometimes, during the supervised handoffs, with a look of bewildered resentment, as if he still can't quite understand how he lost so completely. He doesn't get it. He thinks he lost because of a lawyer, because of a judge. But he lost the moment he looked at our dream, our future, our child, and decided it was worth less than a weekend in wine country. He sees Rose, but he doesn't know her. He doesn't know that she giggles when I kiss her belly, that she loves the taste of sweet potatoes, that she sleeps with a small, stuffed giraffe tucked under her arm. He is a biological fact in her life, not a father. He is just a man who pays the bills. He pays for the roof over her head, the food she eats, the clothes she wears. He is, in a way, finally fulfilling his promise. He is paying for our future. A future he will only ever get to watch from a distance. A future he is not invited to. My daughter is sleeping in her crib now, in her room, painted the color of morning sunlight. The life I have is not the one I planned. It's harder, and I'm more tired than I ever thought possible. But it's real. And it's ours. If this story hit close to home, if you've ever had to build a new life from the ashes of an old one, I'd love to hear your version in the comments. Thanks for being here with me. Subscribing helps bring more of these stories to life.